Do you feel like you have too many eyeshadow palettes in your collection? Well, let me make you feel better about yours if it isn't more excessive than mine is, because oh my gosh. I would say I really heavily got into beauty blogging between 2012 and 2017-ish, 2016. Buying a lot, receiving a lot of PR. I do feel a bit of attachment to these items, like, because I'm like, oh, I need this stuff to make content, even though it's so old. I'm going to be going in alphabetical order today. I only have one from Anastasia, and I bought this kind of at the end of my shopping addiction for makeup, you could say. After that, I was definitely on some kind of a low no-buy situation, particularly with eyeshadow palettes. These first 6 were my favorites, and then there's Bonafresco as well, which is right here. That's nice. The orange, not my favorite. I have just realized that orange eyeshadows are not my favorite eyeshadow. By the way, I have a video on all the eyeshadows that I've hit pan on. So actually on all of the makeup products I've hit pan on. I will link that in the card so you can watch that at the end of this video. I have the Annabelle Eye and Brow eyeshadow palette. Now this is just a small basic drugstore eyeshadow palette. I do really like this sort of gunmetal shade. The neutral right here, it's got a few neutrals, and then the rest are just like mid to deep tone browns, but they really mostly show up as mid-tones because they're not extremely pigmented, if I'm entirely honest. This is actually in my Pan Those eyeshadows, so I'm trying to hit pan on this shade right here. I think this is discontinued, but it's nothing to write home about. Annabelle has infinitely better products than this. B is for Beauty Bay, Bay Age of Opulence. Now this I bought in November 2021. It was part of their holiday collection at that point in time, and it's a fantastic eyeshadow palette. Absolutely love the colors in here. I think there was another that was similar to this one, but this one is kind of more dark, which works for me. Dark hair, dark eyes, might as well. Yeah, their shimmers are gorgeous. Like, they're just so nice, and I'm really happy I treated myself with this after years of not having any new palettes. I do make sure to roll these into my Pan Those eyeshadows. The next palette that I have from Beauty Bay is the Wilderness palette, and this was particularly attractive to me because you've got reds and orange, these olive tones, cooler tone greens, and some blue. Very versatile. Oh, it's just such a beautiful palette. This is originally what triggered me to buy new eyeshadows in 2021, because I was doing Pan Those eyeshadows and those videos were doing well for me back then, and I was super into panning while I wasn't working. But then I started working, so yeah, it was a bit of a gift to myself. Next we have 2 eyeshadow palettes by a brand called Beauty Counter. I don't know where they stand right now, but it was sort of like a cleaner type of makeup range, sort of like Merit. And these were given to me in PR. The Winter Warmth palette bronzer, I think this is more like a blush bronzer shade, and then you have a highlight. It's not really highlight actually, it's more like a matte shade that you could use to set your under eyes or use as a large eyeshadow depending on what your skin tone is. See, like these, it would really depend. I don't remember what they were offering, but this would obviously not work for all skin tones. So I don't love it when they do face and eyeshadow palette combinations, but it's fine. Like, it's not extremely pigmented. It's more of a one and done type eyeshadow looks that you can do with that kind of palette. Winter Dream palette, a couple of bluish shades, and it's more cool toned. These are a bit limited. Next, I have 2 palettes from CoverGirl. I don't know if you guys remember this from before CoverGirl went cruelty free. So we have the Goldens palette. In the beauty landscape, what was popular in this day and age was obviously the Naked palette, Naked 2. So CoverGirl came out with this, and then they also did the Roses version. I suppose it could be comparable to the Naked 3 crazy affordable, very practical. Essentially, I mean, they're nice. Like, nobody looks at your eyes and thinks, oh wow, she is not wearing Urban Decay. Nobody cares. Next we have this palette by Joe Fresh, which looks a lot like Sonia Kashuk, doesn't it? Anyway, this is nothing to write home about, but I thought this color down here was pretty noteworthy because it is a standout. It's a great deepening shade, and I don't think drugstores do phenomenal jet black eyeshadows, but I digress. I did receive it in PR back when Joe Fresh was carried by Pharmaprix. I don't think they are anymore. They might be because, you know, PC Optimum, I don't know. Canadian girlies, you can let me know. Then we have the L'Oreal Paradise Enchanted palette, which was peach themed. So I suppose it was their response to, was it Too Faced that had the peach palette? It still smells a bit peachy, and I received this in PR. I didn't go out and buy this. It did have some nice colors for the drugstore, all things considered, right? Because at the time it was harder to find trendy shades at the drugstore, but that's nice, you know? Good for them. The Laura Mercier Artist palette for eyes. I think this is the second one that they did. And then the ones that they released afterwards were all double the price. And plus there were some repeat shades, but there you can see I hit pan on African Violet, which is the shimmery purple shade that is quite nice. This palette, I like the color story of it. It's cool, browns. It's just quite versatile, and it's really good for an everyday gal like myself and who's looking for something that isn't all orange, which was very 2017-y. This is obviously from much before then. It still performs nicely. Quite enjoy it. The Maybelline Total Temptation palette, a compilation of peachy shades on top, the purpley-ish type shades on the other side, but that darker shade in the corner is really nice for deepening your looks. In the center you have highlight shades, which are practical, I suppose. I don't really use them, to be honest. This is a nice formulation. I will say that the matte shades they're creamy, powdery, finely milled. I do like it. So despite the kind of, you know, not such exciting packaging, it is a nice palette. We now have two palettes from Morphe. These were both sent to me in PR. The Maybelline one from before was sent to me in PR. Morphe Mickey and Friends. I've seen this in Winners, aka Canadian Marshalls. I don't remember what it was retailing for, but it went there real quick. Like, they sent it to me and then 2 weeks later I saw it there. Maybe before I even got a chance to film the video. We all know what happened to Morphe afterwards, so no surprise there. I've experimented with it limitedly, so I don't have a lot to say. The red shade on the top is really pigmented, and it has a wide range of colors, and some are hit and miss though. I did also receive the Sour Patch Collection one. They could have done more with the colors, I think, but in the last row down here are these sort of very shimmery shades that you apply with the finger, and they look fantastic over a glitter primer, particularly the NYX glitter primer. Ooh, the other thing about it is the pigmentation is a bit shoddy with some of the shades. This is a bit on the edge. To me, it's a palette if it's 6 or more. This one is called the Cosmic Metals, and I received it in PR. It's nice, it's neutral. Quite a few from Pixi, and that is because I'm on their PR. Pixi IFX Hazel Haze. Oh my gosh, the shade in the center is phenomenal. I love the bottom row, particularly the shade in the middle, as I said, which is sort of like a greenish tinge gold. And then I also received the Rosette Ray version of the same palette, which I honestly haven't used. So maybe because I haven't used it, I could gift it to a friend before it goes off. But yeah, I mean, but the colors are so pretty. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. And it's got a really nice mirror in it too. See, like, what? What is wrong with me? Like, who am I gonna give it to? Who? I don't have as many friends who wear eyeshadows, so. Natural Beauty, all neutral shades here. I've hit pan on the one in the bottom. It's a nice palette, but I have so many neutrals, so they're all interchangeable. The quality is decent. I think the quality is not as good as these Reflex palettes. To be fair, I I have changed preference over the years. Like, I like those reflective shimmery shades. I like to be one and done, and then I will use matte shades to clean up the look or deepen the crease, but the rest of the time your girl wants a shimmer. A shimmer. There are a few shimmers in here. Speaking of shimmer, they did one that was all shimmery. This is the Reflex Light. To be really honest with you, I have not used this once. I haven't. I just haven't gotten the chance. So if you know what it's like, please leave a comment down below, and don't judge me, because there's just so much. There's so much. Here's another one. It's not that it's never been used, it's just that it's rarely ever been used, and it is the one that they did with It's Judy Time. This one's called It's Eye Time. I love It's Judy Time. Like, I used to watch her in the old days. I haven't watched her in so long. Her kids are probably so big. I should probably go check out her channel. Do you guys have this? Did you try this out? I think they also did a palette with Wiley, and Dulce Candy had a sort of like cream lipstick palette, which I don't like the cream lipstick palette thing. I just don't like that idea. It would have been nice if they had done something else with her. Oh my gosh, this one, it's broken. Oh no. Amethyst Aura. I had the purple shade right here in my pan those eyeshadows. Imagine that I didn't even hit pan on that eyeshadow, and already from opening and closing, it's broken. Come on now. Aquamarine Dream, and looking at it, I have never used this. After Pixi, moving on to the letter R, Rimmel. So I have two palettes from Rimmel. First that I have is the Magnifies Eyes Color Edition. I hit pan on the brown shade here. It's kind of hard to see because it's one of those like pin drop pans. Apart from that shade, I haven't used the other colors as much, although I will say this green shade right here is different for the drugstore. It's just a shimmery emerald green. I don't see that in drugstore eyeshadow palettes very often, unless it's all centered around a proper green look. That could and could not be a problem. There isn't much of a gradient here. There's just like two blues and a green, right? The next one is the Magnifies Eyes Spiced Edition, and this one I guess is sort of a response to the Naked Heat because it's more orangey, and even though I said that I wasn't crazy into orangey shades, these palettes are really nice if you're on a budget. And the other thing that's nice is that they're compact and they're easy to travel with, which I like. Packaging is not fantastic. I mean, if it breaks, it's like you could replace it very easily. In my November 2021 haul, I also bought this palette off Beauty Bay. It is from Sample Beauty, and it is the Equalizer Volume 2. I got this because I was watching Paulina's Beauty and I was influenced by the sponsored video that she did with them, and I love her content and I miss it. She doesn't do as much anymore since she had a baby. I mean, I like it. I know I said, you know, whatever I said about oranges and warm colors, but this actually has pinks and purples and neutral browns. It's got shimmery shades, duochrome type shades. I like the names in the palette. And then the other thing that's noteworthy about it is half the palette is shimmer and the other half is mattes. The mattes and the shimmers have corresponding shades, so it's actually quite practical to use, and the layout lends itself well to makeup looks. You could put stripping with down, 10 o'clock, going down, bitter, sweet. Anyways, the names, fantastic. It's not so big and cumbersome, even though it's got so many shades in it, right? I don't really have a lot of bad to say about this. I really enjoy this palette. I like the Beauty Bay palettes, man. They're nice. Next, from S, we have the one and only Sephora palette in my collection. This was from the Pantone Universe collection. I'm ashamed to say what year it was, honestly, but there were two of these and I got the one in Daybreak, and it looks like nothing to write home about, but these were some of the first proper duochrome eyeshadows that I had played with outside of, I don't know, MAC Club. Essentially, there weren't as many. Like, see, oh, there you go. You can see when the light hits it. Some of them are matte. I didn't love the packaging, but at least it was light. It kind of reminds me of a cheap version of Inglot because it has magnetic closure. Speaking of Inglot, let's just go ahead and throw MAC in the mix. I do have Inglot and MAC eyeshadow palettes, but they're formed with singles that I purchased, so I haven't included them in this video in case you're wondering. Let me know if I should do a video on some of the singles that I have. I feel like it wouldn't be as exciting though. The Balm Nude Tude. Remember this? Oh my gosh. I think I got this on Outlook. There were two of those types of websites where you would go and buy things that would be temporarily available on slight discount. So this was one of those things. Love the art on here. Adorable. These are deceptively difficult to pan. Like you look at this and you think, oh, look at my finger and look at how small the pan is. Ooh, it's gonna be easy. No, it's not. And you guys warned me when I was doing pan those eyeshadows that it was gonna be difficult. These shades are pigmented. They're still pigmented. We are getting to Urban Decay. I have the 15-year anniversary palette, which has, you know, this is a cover and then the inside is a mirror, and then it's got this box that you can pull out the panel of eyeshadows, if you could call it that. Classics like Deep End, Omen and Evidence, Half Truth, Blackout, just kind of some of the most iconic shades from Urban Decay, like Junk Show, Midnight 15. I've neglected it, but this is something I'm happy I have in my collection. It brings me memories as well, and beautiful packaging, right? I remember getting my first Urban Decay palette at Urban Outfitters, and it was the half-baked palette, but I have since decluttered that a long time ago. I also got another one, I forget what it was called, but it had this silver mesh on top of it with purple line, like velvet lining, kind of a frame thing. I'll pop it on the screen if I can find it. Just have like such fond memories of Urban Decay. It was just the beginning of my YouTube adventures. So I still have the original Naked palette, and I admittedly don't really use it, and I can't believe how not so used these eyeshadows look, considering I did use it in quite a few tutorials and stuff. I don't know, I think I've just been very light-handed, and then after I started to get so many eyeshadow palettes that this just kind of fell on the back burner. Naked 2, I had it in my pan those eyeshadows, and just opening and closing these palettes constantly. The glue is drying out where the mirror is starting to get loose. One of the eyeshadows cracked and I just pressed it back in. Like someone even tagged me on Instagram saying, Alexa said it took her this long to hit pan on this Urban Decay eyeshadow. And I was like, oh, I've made it. I have made it. Naked 3 is the one that I have that has a busted up mirror. This I have very fond memories of, because if you live in Quebec or if you're old like I am, you couldn't get Urban Decay at Shoppers Drug Mart. You had to go to Sephora. Sephora took a while to open up in Montreal. So when I went to Toronto for a CoverGirl P&G event, me and my friend Ellie ran to Pharmaprix right after we checked into the hotel to go and get this palette, and admittedly we both don't love it. It's kind of funny. We have the Urban Decay Naked Heat. This was the first time Urban Decay ever sent me PR to my house. Prior to that, I had gone to one event with Eric Jimenez back when he was the global makeup artist, and he did my makeup at a Sephora and I filmed it, and I got like an extra Naked 2, which I ended up giving to my mom. But this was the first time they mailed me PR, and I like this palette, but it's orange, so it doesn't look phenomenal on me. I tend to go for more neutral looks with this one and not super blown out orangey looks. Naked Cherry. This one I like better, actually. A little bit more diverse. I mean, obviously it's a monochromatic palette because it's all pink and cherry colors. I'm kind of disappointed that there isn't like a red, because cherry, right? But I suppose these are all very wearable shades. So Naked Cherry and Naked Heat were PR. And ironically, it was when I was not as interested in eyeshadow palettes and not as interested in buying makeup, is when they started to send me that Naked Basics and Naked Basics 2. I don't know why I needed both of them, but at the time, you know. See, like, look, like these eyeshadow palettes are not crazy used. I did do a tutorial with it that I really loved the way the makeup turned out, but this palette is nothing to write home about, really. You could do a few blowouts, but it's not very versatile. It's handy to have if you're using all shimmer stuff and then you need something matte on the side. Same with Naked Basics 2. I actually prefer this one, and you can tell by the amount that I've used it that I have a tendency towards this one. Skimp is what I have in my Pan Those eyeshadows right now, and it's developing a really nice dip that you cannot see from far away in this footage, so hopefully you can see it in the close-up. The one eyeshadow palette I have left from Wet n Wild, because I decluttered Comfort Zone and all of those, because in my mind I was like, oh, they're too old and they've been reformulated and repackaged, and apparently the reformulated versions are better. So I did get the Modern Renaissance dupe Rosé in the Air, and I hit pan on various shades with Project Pan in 2020 and Pan Those eyeshadows in 2021 and 2022. I do really like this palette, by the way. The hinges are getting a bit loose when I open and close it because I've used it so much, but this little thing has stood the test of time. This is a really good vacation palette. Actually, I would get the Comfort Zone version of this. I bought this in 2019, by the way, so I didn't receive it in PR, but I did go to one Wet n Wild PR event right before the pandemic started. I did a video showcasing all the products that I've hit pan on, including eyeshadows. Definitely click the screen and watch that next. See you in my next video. Bye.